Hey guys, welcome to the third episode of Comic Conundrum. This month we'll be focusing on Star Wars Princess Leia, and Kanan, the last Padawan. I even have Star Wars socks on for this. How fitting. First off, we have Star Wars Princess Leia, written by Mark Waid, one of my all-time favourite writers of comics, who writes a fantastic Daredevil line, which I'll touch on in a future episode. Also, it is illustrated and inked by Terry and Rachel Dobson, husband and wife, who work on a lot of comics together, and in my opinion, they draw women like no other. It's one of my favourite styles. I love how they draw women in comics. It's almost like a pin-up style. Princess Leia also has an amazing colorist in the form of Geordie Belair, a young female colorist who is often not appreciated for how good her work is. Actually, all colorists are kind of overseen. They're kind of the backup singers to bands that add so much, and they add so much to this comic. She is fantastic. Her work is gorgeous. She also worked on The Wake, which I covered in my first episode of Comic Conundrum, so go check that out. Star Wars Princess Leia fills in Leia's gap between A New Hope and Revenge of the Sith, where she goes on a critical mission to save all the orphans, sons and daughters, citizens of Alderaan who were not on Alderaan when it got annihilated, who are now hunted by the Empire. Now we come to the main point. Now this is why I really like Princess Leia. I really like this comic. For two main reasons. The first, Alderaan is absolutely annihilated. Like, a giant death beam blows the planet up. Millions die. I would assume millions. At least hundreds of thousands of people die. And they kind of breeze over that in the films, and Leia's kind of upset. Not really. Like, your whole planet was turned to space crumbs. Like, so many people just died. And this comic addresses that. It addresses the fact that an entire culture has just been wiped out, and whole families, whole dynasties have just been lost. Now, Princess Leia, this comic, addresses the whole genocide, the whole destruction of Alderaan in two ways. One is the plot, Leia's mission, and the second is character interaction. Now, I'll explain that a little later. Now, my second major point why I love this comic is Leia herself. Leia is a badass. Leia gets into the nitty-gritty in this. She directly wants to help the rebels, and she no longer wants to be an asset. There's a really good conversation in this between her and General Dodondo, or whatever his name is, the old man with beard, number 34. Anyway, he directly calls her an asset. She simply needs to look sad in this time of war. And she doesn't want to do that. She wants to fight. She wants to fight with the other soldiers. And that's exactly what she does. She gets rid of her signature white dress, and she gets a cool jacket, and she goes out on an awesome mission. And it's kind of cool seeing Leia do stuff in the comic that she didn't really do in the film. She's headbutting aliens, she's shooting stormtroopers. It's really cool. Now, remember that thing I said about character interaction? Enter Avan, this comic's companion character. Avan is a female TIE fighter pilot who is also an Alderaanian, and she, like many other soldiers, thinks Princess Leia is frost-blooded, or, you know, a harpy queen, cold-hearted bitch, that whole kind of thing, because, like in the films, she kind of just breezes over the whole Alderaanian destruction thing. There's no time to mourn between Alderaan being destroyed and the whole battle where the Death Star is destroyed, and then Han Solo and Luke get medals and everything's okay. No, that's not how it works. And the soldiers kind of look at her and they bow and they go, "Oh, Princess Leia," but they all think she's very frost-blooded, she's cold, and they kind of dislike her. Now, this character's interesting, and her interactions with Leia are really unique, because she is a loyal Alderaanian, and she must do what the Princess Leia says, but on a personal level, she disagrees with the mission entirely, and doesn't really like Leia at all. And it's kind of cool, because she kind of has like a split personality thing going on, because she has to put this front on and say, "Oh yes, Leia, yes my queen, or yes my princess, that sounds like a great idea, when in fact she is totally against pretty much everything Leia says, and they're always at odds, and I kind of like that, and I kind of like how they deal with how Alderaan is being destroyed, and how these characters have different ideas about how the whole thing went down. Now this comic is still coming out, it's still currently running, and I love it so far. I love the art and I love the writing, and it's just your traditional Star Wars adventure, misadventure. There's deceit, there's action, but it follows Princess Leia, which is always really nice because we don't really get to see a lot of Leia, and that's refreshing, that's cool. And if that doesn't do it for you, it also has General Akbar in it, so worth your money. The second comic I wanted to highlight is Kanan, The Last Padawan. This comic is very character focused rather than plot, and is written by George Wiseman, who writes Spectacular Spider-Man and Young Justice, which, go figure, I'm a big fan of. It's also illustrated and penciled by Pepe Larraz, if I get that name correct, who has done stuff like Mighty Thor and Inhumans. I haven't checked out a lot of his work, but from what I've seen, it's quite nice. Now, before you ask, I know what you're thinking. Yes, this comic is indeed based off the Star Wars Rebel animated TV series, and no, I don't think you have to watch it to read this, because I haven't. Does that make me bad? Probably. Forgive me, Maude. Forgive me. This comic tells the story of Kanan Jarrus, a Jedi hiding incognito in a small band of rebels, mercenaries, bounty hunters, that kind of thing, on the run from an endless sea of stormtroopers and, of course, King Old Man Evil Emperor himself. Now, this story is told mostly in flashbacks during the time of Order 66, which is about 5 years. So the main story takes 5 years before A New Hope, but the flashbacks take place 12 years before that. Yeah. The main plot is actually told in the form of flashbacks. We're informed that Jarrus's name is actually Caleb Doom, and he was a Padawan during the Clone Wars. Now, like most Padawan, Caleb is ready to see some action. He wants to jump into the fray and kill some separatist droids. And life is pretty good for him at the moment. The galaxy is at war, but he's kind of found his place. His master is really cool, and he's enjoying what he's doing. So what could go wrong? Yeah, the clones shoot everyone. They shoot his master. Order 66 happens. Life gets pretty crummy, pretty damn fast. One of the first things that really grabbed me from this comic, and I really noticed, was how it depicted Order 66. Now, from Caleb's perspective, he's not just killing bad guys, or he's not killing faceless clones. He's killing his friends. He's killing troopers that he's fought in this war with. So there's a really interesting scene where he's narrating the people he's fighting against when he's defending himself when Order 66 has been issued. He sees his master cut the head off a clone trooper, and he's like, whoa, that's fucking Dave. Like, I had lunch with him the other day, dude. Like, that's crazy. Like, these are actual people, so it's more than just faceless clones. They're characters. That's what I said, this story is character driven, and that's just one part of this story that I really, really liked. After Order 66 goes down, things aren't looking too crash hot for Caleb. Obviously his master takes a laser to the back of the cranium, so she ain't so much alive anymore. So that's pretty bad for him, and the galaxy is a pretty scary place, and clone troopers are trying to hunt him down and kill him. Introduce Casimir, my personal favourite character from this comic. Casimir is this weird fish green smuggler lowlife guy, so he's basically a lot like the rest of the Star Wars galaxy, and he teaches Caleb how to lie, cheat and steal to survive. He kind of acts like an opposite to where Caleb's master was, where she taught him wisdom, the Jedi way, the whole when to fight, when not to fight, all the niceties that Jedis usually learn, and Caleb teaches him the gritty, dark stuff that you kind of need to know if you're going to live by yourself out in this galaxy. By the way, I actually love a lot of the character designs in this. Casimir is probably one of my favourite aliens I've actually ever read in a Star Wars comic. He's this weird green alien thing. I actually really dig aesthetically his race. Also, we get a peek at a villain earlier in the comic called General Cleve, who's this weird almost satanic humanoid looking alien with like a robotic Kano eye, which is pretty damn cool. Now, only 2 issues are currently out for Kanan the Last Padawan, but it's off to a great start. The first story arc will run for 5 issues, and then George Wiseman will step down as the writer. Hopefully Marvel can find another skilled writer to take over, because this comic has a lot of potential, and I really like the setting. That's it for this issue of Comic Conundrum, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like and subscribe. Check out the rest of our channel. If you haven't already, check out Maude crying on the red carpet. It is fantastic, hilarious. I use it every morning. Wakes me up better than coffee. Fantastic way to start the day. Oh, and I promise next issue, guys, will be a Daredevil extravaganza. You will love it. Not the Ben Affleck type. Let's forget that. Let's forget that ever exists. Never happened. Thanks, guys.